Well, I thought that was fabulous. My goodness. There's tissues right there. They're right there in front of you.
John,
Yes,
Family putting up first.
yeah, family's going first, huh? That tells you something. All right. So it appears we have a surprise roaster this evening. Did you know about this? No, that's funny. Thought you knew everything. Anyway, so this is a surprise roaster. I'll just roll with it, just right off the tongue, like you don't have anything prepared for it at all. They broke the mold when they made this roaster. Then, just to be safe, they found the guy who made the mold and shot him. For most of my life, she's declared to the world that John was perfectly flawless. In her eyes, he could swallow a piece of coal and crap a diamond. However, in recent years, apparently she's seen the error of her ways, and she approached me last week and really just was like, give me an opportunity to go on the record here today and set things straight. So who am I to refuse redemption? Ladies and gentlemen, my Aunt Karen, over turf.
Sorry.
Born on a mountaintop, Tennessee, raised and stayed in the land of the free, raised in the woods, so the youth of the tree, killed him the bar.
Let's start out by saying young John was a different John than what you may remember. Some of us know. Reading to John was a serious undertaking. One afternoon he handed me his favorite book. It was Jack and the Beanstalk. Climbed up on the couch, a little R&R time. I thought to myself, this would be a perfect way. He was 2 years old, lull him into a nap. However, I made the mistake of skipping a few words in the book. John immediately sat up and demanded I restart the book. He knew. Because in his eyes, those few words I skipped may have affected the plot exposition that he knew was on its way. He was a brilliant boy even then. A little later, John wasn't just satisfied with reading. He was always on a mission of sorts, to find excitement becoming the characters he enjoyed, emulating them. During his Davy Crockett period, he could be found running through the yard on the warmest summer days, wearing this coonskin hat he loved, beads of sweat running down his sideburns onto his face, making the huge goodbye hug pretty gross. And matter of fact, that hat would really stink. Then after that, we went into his Spider-Man phase. If it wasn't enough that he wore an onion bag on his head to look like Spider-Man, he had my mother's long black gloves up to his elbow in case he had to spin some webs. He was really in an adventure every day, John McLoughlin. And I wonder now, as his imagination grew, his stories grew into drawings, and I think sometimes of the teachers back in Bloomsburg, in Central Columba, often wondering to this day if they're saying, what do you think ever happened to that strange little boy, if they only knew? Love you, Johnny.
I still have that time.
My Johnny! Sorry.
No, actually, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that was all nice stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was pretty cool.
Moving on, we'll continue this roast. So we've come to our final roaster, actually. Our final roaster could have stayed at home in Maryland this weekend, but he chose to be here due to his high regard for the people of Maryland. He's the kind of guy you enjoy running into while driving. Some people bring happiness wherever they go. This man brings happiness whenever he goes. But anyway, please welcome the sticky, oozing sap of my family tree, my brother, Brian Loserface McLaughlin.
My brother John was a good man, despite his many I'm sorry. After a certain age, it doesn't hurt to be prepared. Thank you. So first off, let's see. First off, I want to thank Andy for doing a good job here tonight. It's not true what they say about you, Andy. You know, I always have your back, though. Someone once told me, your brother Andy will never amount to anything. But I stood up for you. I said, don't say that, Mom. I'm sure he's going to do great at the roast tonight. So most of you know him, know that my brother is a smart, funny, and generally likable guy. So when he asked me, or when he told me he was going to organize a roast for John, I figured I'd follow his lead, even if I thought it was a bit of an easy target over here. And he is doing a good job. I mean, I kind of hoped Andy would tell some jokes to warm the crowd up, but we all have our strengths. At least he went with the goofy beard and the funny look on his face. To the other roasters, I wanted to say it's an honor to be counted among such talented and funny people. I mean, I really wanted to say that. I wrote it down and everything, but after sitting through your presentations, I don't know, thanks for filling the room, I guess. Anyway. So we've got my dad, you know, one of the former roasters. He's the really old one up here tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, John. He was the even older one up here tonight. And as you've heard already, he owed some credit for tonight because he was the one who planned John's original roast back when he was 16. At the time, roasts weren't really popular. John didn't even know what a roast was. For years, he just thought of it as the worst surprise party ever. I mean, what 16-year-old doesn't want their friends and family to show up unexpectedly and brutally insult them for hours on end? So anyone looking for someone to blame for the way John turned out, that's a good place to start. We also had my nephew Jack up here tonight, the heir to all his father has built, which as far as I can tell is a respectable DVD collection and a helmet made out of constructs. But I give Jack credit, he's certainly the youngest roaster I've ever seen, and I thought he did a great job. Yeah. Of course, with John for your father, you have to have a sense of humor pretty early. Still, it's not easy to stand by and listen to people insult your father over and over again. Trust me, I've dealt with it for years. We also had Liz up here, John's one friend from high school. Oh, sorry, one of John's many friends from high school. You know, Liz came from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, and went to Central Columbia with my brother, so I'll try not to use any big words. Still, I think it says a lot about the impression John makes on people that Liz was willing to travel here tonight and get up in front of a room full of strangers just for the chance to insult him again. It was also really nice to have some of John's coworkers here tonight. You could tell the government contractors it took three people to do one person's job. Still, the fact that they showed up tells me something about my brother, too. Mainly that he's willing to exploit his position to make people hang out with him. I don't know what he threatened, but having worked with John myself, nothing could be as bad with dealing with him every day. And of course, we had a surprise roaster, my Aunt Karen, who wanted to stay off the playbill here, stay off the record, hoping she'd avoid some insult and injury. But, I don't know, I think you're kind of like the heckler hiding in the back of a comedy club, hoping to avoid some jabs, though I've never heard a heckler try to tear down someone's childhood like that. Yeah, we've pretty much run the gamut of comedy here tonight. I think we just need someone to smash a watermelon with a sledgehammer and we'll be all set at the end. I also wanted to mention a couple important people who weren't up on stage tonight. First of all, John's wife Amanda is here. I want to thank her for her dedication. She heard that we wanted to celebrate John's birthday by having a room full of people make fun of him. She worked tirelessly to make sure it happened. Our mother is also in the audience tonight. And she didn't really want this roast to happen. And I can't say I blame her. No one likes to be reminded of their mistakes. But I'll promise you this, Mom. I'm going to do my best tonight to make sure he never asks for this again. All right, so let's move on to the man of the hour. I've got plenty of thoughts to share with you, but let's remember amidst all the criticism that turning 40 isn't all bad, so I'll try to hit some of the highlights as well. So first, I'm going to start by asking the question that's come up already. What kind of person asks for their own roast? I mean, that's a special kind of narcissism right there. It puts John in the proud ranks of people like Charlie Sheen and Peter Griffin. The way I figure it's got to be one of two things, right? Either he's so delusional he thinks there's nothing about him that you can make fun of, or he's so desperate for attention he's willing to be publicly humiliated. But maybe that's not fair. It could be both. So I guess the third option might be that my brother wants to prove to all of us that he knows how to take a joke, but that's just ridiculous. I've never seen John take a joke. The closest he's come is carrying a grudge. I imagine he's probably picked up a few of those tonight to carry to his grave, which at 40 will be a pretty short trip. So hey, benefit number one. No, I think what happened here tonight is John saw a chance to steal the spotlight and he grabbed it, and I can't blame him for that. I'm just glad that he chose a spotlight that lets us all make fun of him without mercy. So win-win situation as far as I'm concerned. Trust me, we should all just be glad there's not a birthday tradition of making people sit around and listen to terrible music. Andy and I had a bit of a side bet going on about whether John will pull out a guitar tonight and try and play some songs for you. If he doesn't, I have to pay Andy $5. And if he does, then we all pay. Everyone here tonight is painfully aware of my family's passion for music. Of course, in John's sense, that's the passion in the biblical sense, meaning pain and suffering. What you might not realize is that for a couple years, we actually went to a professional recording studio and laid down some of our songs until John went out and bought his own equipment and taught himself to be a producer, which at first sounds pretty ambitious, but really it was a lot easier than convincing the professionals not to drop his vocals out of every song we laid down. I've heard a lot of singers' voices get kind of strained and raspy once they hit 40, so pretty soon John's songs are going to sound like someone shoving burlap through a paper shredder. So hey, your voice will get better. That's benefit number two. Anyway, John has other passions beside music. In his 20s, he became something of a cinephile. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's basically someone with absolutely no social life. In fact, true story, the Blockbuster across the street from John actually comped him free membership to their Gold Club, which, if you're not familiar, is a loyalty program they have for customers to make them feel better about having absolutely no social life. You know, a lot of people blame Netflix and Hulu, but I can't help but notice that Blockbuster went out of business around the same time he got cable. Still, at least in the early years as a film lover, John tried to put on a good show. He'd watch films like Citizen Kane and Chariots of Fire, so he'd sound really sophisticated when he talked to people about it. But as years went on, the veneer wore off, and now if you're going to John's house for a movie, odds are much better you're going to see a Sharknado spin-off or one of the Star Wars prequels. As hard as it is to believe, looking at him now, John was also once something of an athlete. Or at least that's what he tried to tell himself. Most of his early days were spent playing soccer, or as my school called it, technically also a sport. He may not have gone pro, but he did his best. And after school, he really worked hard trying to find himself another group after school that would play at his level. After years, he did finally find a competitive league. And though I think technically he was supposed to be coaching, those first graders really gave him a run for his money. John's other love when it came to athletics, aside from briskly walking from the food court to the Camelot music store, was swimming. From the moment he first took a plunge and started splashing back and forth along the same 50-yard lane for hours on end, John quickly fell in love with the sport that required all the tactics and strategic thinking of a Roomba. Still, when he did get involved, he really took it seriously. He even adopted some strange and perplexing sports rituals, such as buying the Arby's 5 for $5 sandwiches on the way to swim meets, which he would then eat between the races. Now, I'm as big a fan of roast beef sandwiches as you're gonna find, but I have to think that the fractions of a second that he managed to get off his time by shaving his head and wearing those ridiculous swimsuits were probably lost by having 2 pounds of low-grade meat dragged. Speaking of that, John, remember when you used to shave your head for some important swim meets? Man, I bet you wish you saved those clippings now, don't you? You could probably move the hairline down a little, fill in the back, you wouldn't have to comb it like that. Man. I mean, I aspire to be like my dad in a lot of ways, but you're taking it too far. But no, I mean, you've got plenty of people fooled with the slick back and the big beard. I guess you're just trying to keep the same average hair length as you always have. Whatever works. You know, my advice, though, is just get it cut short and own it. Because at least with male pattern baldness, you can say there's one thing you do like a man. Benefit number 3. Nope. After school, John went off to college, and I remember being the little brother and a little intimidated about school. And I'd go visit him and his friends like Ryan and see the way they behaved and thought, wow, okay, cool. College kids are pretty much as ridiculous and clueless as high school kids and awkward. Okay, that's cool. So I went to college, and meanwhile, John graduated. And I'd visit him and see what it was like as an independent person. I'd say, okay, apparently 20-somethings are as clueless and awkward as high school students. All right. Then I get out of college, and John by now was married and moved on to a new area of responsibility. So I hung out with him and Amanda, and I said, I guess married people are as clueless and I think I need a new role model. So, as I mentioned earlier, along with other opportunities, I had to get to know the many facets of my brother. I got to work with him for a time after school, and I learned a lot about John that summer. Work ethic, responsibility, and how long you can go without cleaning a bathroom before the mold starts to self-cannibalize and clean itself. I'm not joking. Another important lesson I learned that year was humility. I remember one time in particular, John went on a business trip, and he called me when he got there saying he had to park in temporary parking, and could I get a ride over and move his car so it didn't get towed? So my grandparents came out and drove me all around the lot at the Exton train station where he said he'd been, and we looked for it everywhere and couldn't find it, and I was nervous, but this was before cell phones, so all we had to do was to go back home and wait for him to call and check in. So when he did, I apologized and told him I couldn't find it. He got really upset and said, you have to go get the car, it's gonna get towed, and this car was his pride and joy. He says, at the Exton train station, it's in the temporary parking, it's right there in the second row, how can you miss it? So my Uncle Carl and my cousin Jackie came with me, and we drove back out,